Welcome to the Accelerate Campfire. I'm Lyndon Bowen, and today I'm joined by an amazing entrepreneur. I truly hope you enjoy hearing their experiences and life path. Listen in. Without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest today, Tess. Tess is the Chief Event Executioner and Event Technologist for iSocialExecution Inc., a live event associate with ExecOnline and a tech whisperer with DAHLIA Plus agency. Tess was named one of the United States' most influential event professionals on the 2020 Biz Bash 500 list and nominated by Eventex as one of the top 100 most influential people in the event industry. Tess is a certified meeting professional, digital event strategist, and a stage manager for TEDxAtlanta. Without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Tess.
Oh, it always embarrasses me to listen to that, but thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Like I was reading your bio and I was like, man, she is such a badass. I was like, this lady is amazing. So I was fanboying as I was actively reading it. So don't be
Thank
embarrassed at
you.
all.
Leslie promised me this is going to be recorded, so I'm going to have to snip that piece, which you just
Yeah,
said.
yeah, no, sniff it all day. Okay. So my name is Lyndon. You guys may or may not be familiar with me, but I actually run the Archibot here on the Accelerate server. I'm gonna welcome you guys again to today's event. As I said before, we're playing a bit of a different game. We have a trailblazing entrepreneur with us here, Tess. And these kind of things usually work as like a conference. Like we're not doing anything like that that's boring, right? This is a different type of event that has a bit of a twist. We're going to be actually asking questions of Tess in real time based off of the polls that you select. So Leslie's actually going to be dropping the poll right about now into the chat. So interact with that first poll and choose the question that you like me to ask Tess. Okay. So we're dropping the first poll in there, Tess. I'm actually I have a personal question. I'm curious. So
Yeah.
how did you get into events while they're answering that poll? I'm just really curious for me.
It was haphazard, actually. My
Okay.
sister is she's a master cosmetologist and worked for a hair care product company, and she produced the hair shows for that hair care, technically a trade show, if you will. And because it's she's 11 years older than me, so I would traipse around going to different events with her. But I got to see the production aspect of it, the back end. So she had to work with the model, she worked with the hairstylist, she worked with the sales team. And it actually was a trade show for real.
Mm-hmm.
And pulling all those elements together, seeing how it worked, I just kind of fell in love with it. And then I always wanted to be a buyer, a fashion buyer. So it was a combination of seeing the end results of things and kind of figuring out how to make it happen and loving the breadth of it. So that's kind of
That's
how I
interesting. So
fell into it,
trade
in a
show to
sense.
event. Okay.
So I came from production. Fell in love with production and ended up on the planning side of events, and then got back out of planning and back over into production.
Planning production into events. Okay, wow. So just veteran energy all the way around. I'm honored right now. I think we actually have the first question. If you're ready for us to hop into it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Um, what were you actually doing, as a job before you decided to drop, iSocial Inc.
Uh, great. So my full-time job, as I call this, my government job,
Government
I
job.
manage I manage a conference center at a technical college. So it was Atlanta Technical College here in Atlanta. So I got to run a venue, if you will. I had experience on the venue side. I used to work with Atlanta Botanical Garden in the events department there too. So I got to see the venue aspect of it and what it took. So that kind of rounded out my view and my vision of what our industry can offer. And I've
Mhm.
always, even though I've worked corporate, nonprofit, academia and the like, I still really enjoy business events. So that's business to business. So people who are creating business type of content as opposed to
Right.
social. Never took to social very well. It's not my thing. I don't like any aspect of planning weddings or anything like that. Uh,
I know that's a headache. It's a whole
but
headache in itself.
business events, right?
Mhm.
And then eventually, I'd always been freelancing for many years, for like 10, 15 years, doing things on the side, right? I'd worked on various different jobs. I worked for Macy's Special Events, doing events there, and like I said, some nonprofits and foundations and things
Mm,
of that nature. So always still had a job and a side hustle, if you will.
right.
And people would just all call, Tess, well, can you do this? Tess, well, then can you do that? And through time, because I'm born through the loins of entrepreneurs in my
Mm,
family, I kept trying to negate it because all of the things that they did well, talent wise, on the entrepreneur side was wonderful. And then I
mm,
learned the hard sides of
mm,
entrepreneurship, which I really wanted to stay away from. And I didn't ever want to be entrepreneur because of those horror stories on the
mhm,
business side of it.
mm.
But then I couldn't help it. It just kept coming. It's just like, okay, well, I'll
I was calling
acquiesce.
you.
I just acquiesce. So that's it.
And did that calling like bring you to Georgia? Like you went from the Midwest to being in Atlanta.
No,
Like how did that
no, I
happen?
wish, I wish I could. No. So my parents left Chicago when I was 11 and
Uh,
then went to Jersey for a year and then down to Atlanta. So I went from seventh grade through college here in Atlanta. So I'd
okay.
already been here from a professional standpoint. Learning, growing here in Atlanta. And then I go back and forth to Chicago for various reasons. But yeah.
So you almost have like two homes there, kind of torn between Chicago and Atlanta. Do you claim both
Mhm.
or?
See, I always say I am from Chicago and, I have had the luxury of living in Atlanta
Okay,
and
okay,
experience
okay.
Atlanta. Because I can't,
Diplomatic
I've had
approach.
more years here than there, but I tell people, read my birth certificate.
I have the credentials to match.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really how I got into it.
We actually have the next question for Tess in the chat. So like, how does one break into the professional business event management scene? Like, what is that? You went from production. You mentioned the trade events. Like, what was your first kind of like big break? Or big client like in that industry?
As an entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
Um, Well, I'll be honest. Like I said, I've been working in the industry for a while, and
Hmm.
while I was debating on whether or not I was going to let go of my day job uh, at all, I actually got a client. I was not looking for a client. I
Hmm.
literally sat down at a luncheon, and the woman asked me what I did for a living, and I told her, and she said, "Well, I'd like you to play in our conference." And they were one of the top Fortune 100 businesses that housed here in Atlanta. I can't say who, but housed here in Atlanta. And she was like, and I
Hmm.
was like, what? So I couldn't turn her right. I couldn't tell her, yeah, but she knew I had a full time job. She was
Right.
looking at
Right.
my
Right. Right.
business card, right? Um, but she really, we clicked. So it was a business relationship networking. And she said, I want you to do it. So I literally just took the time to find a good partner to partner with on the
Mm,
project who could handle it from day to day while I did more of a strategic aspects of it and work that particular project and kind of step out on faith like that. So that's really how it happened. So I got it before I was actually um, full time in my business.
yeah. That's interesting. Like I hear a lot of stories from entrepreneurs, like that being the final like push. Like, or did you have any jitters about making that jump, like to
Oh
to,
my
to
God.
do this? Like what were the feelings
Splendid.
racing through your head at this moment? I
Oh,
just want to
splendid.
know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so so back then, which was probably in I started my business in 2013, but I didn't leave till like 2015. So it took me a minute to get that together. But Linda, back then, no one was saying imposter syndrome, right? But it existed, right? It's
Mm,
just an aspect of, are you good enough? Are you really ready to go out here? Oh, where in the world is your check going to come from? Is this going to be, even if you take this and you know you have this in the
yeah.
pocket, it's not a, it's not an ongoing client. So I don't have a retainer with them. So what does that mean?
Mm,
So you're going through the questioning why, but you have to really just step out and say to yourself, if you are good at what you do, then this leap of faith, you need to trust it and see how it
mm,
goes. Because if I didn't take the chance, I would never have known.
right.
I would have just still been in a 9 to 5 job, not happy, doing well, but not happy, happy really from the inside out. So that's really what. got me in that position, in that kind of role.
That's something really interesting that like a thread, if I would say, like a lot of entrepreneurs, how much of it really is a mental battle over like a technical skill set. Like what percentage would you say like your battles have been mental versus like technical, your ability to do the actual, details of the job or details of that, your current position as the chief event executioner at your company?
That's a great one. I, I'd say 80%. And I say that just because if we're as entrepreneurs take the time to step away from what our niche is for a second and looked at entrepreneurship in its totality, which means it's not just your talent, it's running a business. There's a lot of mental gymnastics that have to go there. Yeah, Z's definitely. It's the 80, it's definitely 80/20 rule. It has to be. Because if you're not realistic with what goes on, because you have to think about every aspect and make decisions, stick hopefully with those decisions, and hopefully be nimble enough to shift and change accordingly. And that has nothing to do with the talent in which you why you started your business. So
And like, we mentioned lightly like the imposter syndrome. And I'm gonna ask this question before I ask the question the audience chose in here as well. But how has that imposter syndrome manifested like in your day to day for you?
well, I think so, okay, I'll let you all in on a secret that's not a secret, right? So the events industry in essence collapsed, and I don't think people realize what that really meant. When everything shut down for COVID, our industry collapsed, not just the business shut down, the industry collapsed.
Mm,
So, what had to come around that is everyone had to rethink who they were, how they redefined themselves, um, were they good at what they were doing to begin with to find a new opportunity? Are they good at, am I good enough to do what I've been doing, what I've said I've been doing for the longest time? It was the perfect time to talk about Eventex because nobody was really talking about it prior, but
mm,
now everyone is listening. And now everyone is listening. All eyes are on me. And am I delivering? So there are aspects that showed up through that redevelopment of not only myself, but also my business, right?
mm.
So I had to, luckily, we took the approach of collaborating and working and
Oh,
talking to others and getting
yeah.
other, and relying on others, people's skill sets to help make a whole and get certain projects done. Because if you don't have that sounding board to work with. And then you're not making diverse and inclusive and equitable decisions. So
It's like recentering the need to not try to do it all alone and like no one person is an island, right? Like these are large
absolutely.
tasks, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I love this. Should I be here? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That is a question you say. That's an internal dialogue. It's always internal.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think we need to go ahead and say it externally around anyone who may challenge us on it. And I
Hmm.
think it's our own responsibilities as entrepreneurs, no matter what industry you're in, is to give and help others as well. Because you never know what people are going through and dealing with on a day to day basis. And it could be just that one moment that they need you and they need to hear that, yes, you are valued, right? And yes, you can do this.
Yeah, yeah. And you belong in this space as much as anyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So the next question from the audience is actually a tie. So I'll choose one of the questions. um, let's see. What was the first thing that you brought for your company?
Oh gosh. Oh, I remember that because, like I said, it's 2013.
first
But
first thing you can
can
remember.
I update it?
You
Can
can
I
update it.
edit the question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna edit it too because there's life pre-COVID and there's life post-COVID, right? So I'm
Mm,
gonna say in in 2020 because I
okay.
think that's where my whole business had been reimagined. So you
Right,
start
right,
from
right, right.
nothing,
The
right?
pivoting.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start there because I think this is
Okay.
so the very first thing I did is I received a grant from ExecOnline, which I was so excited about, right?
Ooh, congratulations. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. And it was a reimbursable grant.
Ooh.
And the first thing I got was a generator.
Mm, mm.
And I'm a
That's so smart.
home-based business.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was a home-based business producing virtual events,
Mm.
which, eventually become hybrid, but yes. So
Wow.
generator.
Yeah.
So
I've actually been contemplating getting a generator myself.
yeah, it's the best thing
Just
in
as
the
a
world.
backup. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because we're so codependent on power.
Right. Right. And you rely on that. Like if the power goes down during an event, like you can't, like yeah, that makes absolute sense there.
Yeah.
We actually have the next question in the chat for Tess here, guys. If you just go in the chat and vote on that question there for her. Yeah,
I really
so
like this format too.
thank
This
you,
is like
thank you,
one of
thank
the
you.
best.
Hey, we're reading your notes and adapting accordingly. Trying to move fast, pivot fast. So we actually have the next question here. Okay, the audience is going for the juggler here.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What was your biggest mistake?
Oh, gosh. So what was my biggest mistake as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur?
yeah.
So I always take liberties to respect the pause. So allow me to respect the pause
No,
here because
respect the pause is important. Yeah.
I want this to be good for all.
Mhm.
I'd say my biggest mistake is not paying myself first,
Mm,
looking
mm,
to me first versus bills and expenses
mm,
first. Um, I would say probably that one is my
mm.
biggest mistake.
That
People are always fictitiously saying, "Oh, you got to pay yourself first. You got to do this. You got
right.
to." Yeah, yeah. That's. It's logical. It
Hmm.
sounds nice, but that didn't mean that it happened. So you literally taking, putting yourself on payroll and
Mm,
saying, even if it's $100, let's just say,
yeah.
do the $100 because you have no idea whether that hundred is 100, 1,000, 100,000, 200,000, and up and or down.
Hmm.
How that makes you feel that you have
Mm,
designed something and you're getting something from it that has
mm,
nothing to do with bills.
yeah.
It is just you paying yourself for your worth and your value of what you can at the time. So I think that is it.
Alyssa said she feels like she has to digest that more. Yeah, that I was, I
Yeah.
wanted to take a pause after and internalize that. Um, I think that you know, it may feel um uncanny, right? To think about, paying yourself. And that's interesting that people may value themselves less than like what they're actually worth, right? Like they're in crisis mode. They're thinking, okay, bill paid, invoice collected. What was your kind of like process around formulating like how much you pay yourself and like when you pay yourself? Like what did that process look like for you?
It's
Coming
changing.
from the mistake learned. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it ever changes, and I think that was the mistake that I didn't know existed until recently, is that it's okay for that to change. So the way that I got to that is I have a phenomenal accountant who is a true CPA firm,
Oh, shout out to
and a
good
tr
accountants.
yes, a phenomenal, and he's pushed me since day one to try to do that, and I was like, okay, so we got to work our way up to that because hey, all right, our industry just collapsed. Or remember, I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't have a right now a quote unquote retainer right now. So
Mhm,
do I know where those dollars are coming in? How could I possibly have something that's non-consistent and then have
mm,
consistent pay, right?
mm.
Well, you have to get to that point where you decide that you're going to do something. Even if it's not the same amount each
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
do it. If it's once a month, if it's twice a month, whatever it is that you want to do it. Because then you'll get used to it, and it's like training your money, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you'll get used to it, and then it'll happen, and then money likes money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you do, like I said, $100 to yourself, eventually that's going to grow on its own because it's going to attract each other and then opportunities, and then you'll grow from that. So you got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think that you're dropping gems here. Honestly, you're dropping so many gems here. Like, that's wow. To sit with that for a second. We actually have the next question in here.
Is
What
this the
kind of
final question? Is Leslie
yeah,
giving me the final? Oh God,
this is the final question.
I'm
We
so
could chat a little bit
shocked.
more depending on how long we talk on this question, or I'll let you give some final thoughts to the audience as well. But the question here is, what is some advice that you often share with entrepreneurs?
Y'all hit hard. Y'all hitting hard. Every last one
Hey,
of them.
hey, we only come with the good stuff.
um, I'm gonna pick one, which I kind of alluded to earlier,
Mhm,
is collaboration, but collaboration with transparency.
mhm,
We don't do a lot. I think now that these kind of communities exist,
yeah,
dialogue and communication is better, but you have to collaborate with others
mm,
and give them the ability to shine and make magic together. But you got to be transparent, and that
mm,
requires good communication. I am very honest that I'm not a writer. I don't write, it's not my thing. I just don't do it. It's just, I just don't. I'm very auditory and visual. So if someone asks me to deliver something to them, Leslie should know. Leslie knows this. I'm going to talk, and I'm going to talk into Otter. I'm going to let it translate it
mhm,
for me. And I'm going to copy and paste it into whatever format I need it that you have asked me to deliver it to you. But I'm not going to sit there and type it for you. And I'm
mhm,
not going to do pen to paper for you, right? But I'm
mhm.
transparent about that to others. And that took a long time. And Aunt Rona, as I call her, has allowed me to bring
And Rhoda,
voice to
I love
right.
that.
has allowed me to bring voice to that, to shed light and feel comfortable in that, to say that to people. Because I think that's one of the things that most people assume everyone loves to write, or everyone can write, or everyone enjoys that process, no matter how short or long it is. So again, you need to stay truthful to yourself and transparent, but collaborate with others to get anything done that you need to get done. Instead of having a spirit of competition, we need to
Mhm,
dismantle competition and think about, as you know, building communities, but most
right.
importantly, collaborating.
I think that like what you said there is so profound for the simple fact that like as an entrepreneur you have limited resources, right? Like you're not part of a gigantic organization. So like you have to recognize earlier that you have limitations in terms of like I'm really good at doing X, Y, and Z. I'm not a great writer, right? But I can collaborate with great writers and like be open in a mental space for collaboration to make something great. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned collaboration with transparency. How do you cultivate a aura or a kind of philosophy to get to that place, right? An entrepreneur may feel like, oh, this is my baby. I don't want someone to touch this. I need this to all be mine. I need to make all the decisions. Like, what did you do in your life, kind of like to get to the point to be able to collaborate with transparency?
It's just real. You can't survive that way. You just can't survive. And I've always so my nature is collaboration anyway. It's just that now again, thanks to Aunt Rona, she's created
I'd rather.
a fester of opportunities where we can fester and soar around it
Mm,
easier now. So we can talk about what that means just by the nature of everyone learning how to build community, right? Um, but I also think that it's yeah, Z's is know thyself. You have to know
Myself, yeah.
yourself. It's
Mhm.
gotta it's something internal that takes to you that says, hey. But the overall arching thing is that big T word, which is called trust. So you gotta
Mm,
trust yourself to know, and you have to trust others. Because if you don't trust something, an entity outside of yourself, you're never going to grow and develop. And whether it works or not, it's okay. It's a learning experience. And you gotta realize it's no we're not perfect and no one's perfect.
Yeah.
But you definitely can't be any closer to perfect doing it all yourself.
Right. Limitations, large limitations.
Right.
Um, no, Tess, I think you've dropped so many gems today. I honestly want to thank you so much for being a part of the community, and leading with transparency in your life. Like all of our relationships with you, the work that you continue to do. Like it's beautiful to see that and see that aura like embodied so authentically. Um, uh, wow, I think just asked the question. Um, Ziz wants to know, do you think that certain cultures get caught up in not asking for help?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So yes. So let me say it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is not incumbent upon the Black and Brown communities to ask for help because we are community based by nature and how we are oriented. So someone within our home, reach family wise, just naturally is who you're cultured to rely on. But outside of that, the trust level goes down dramatically. So, yes, from a cultural standpoint, it's true. So, what you have to do is you have to bring voice to it to some people you do trust. And as you're getting, it's like we were talking about training the money, you got to train
Yeah,
yourself too.
yeah,
You got to train the trust.
it's holistic.
And you have to realize that it's okay. It is okay. And then hopefully that circle will grow and grow and grow. And that doesn't mean you have to trust everyone, but you need to be strategic in that. Yes, the diversity of thought and diversity of geography it's key, and it is true. I mean, it literally is true. But again, now there are many more opportunities for you to see others who you could seek to try to trust, or it could be just little things, small things. Take small steps, baby steps, and then move from there.
The right direction. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, Tess, I want to thank you so much. Everything that you have said has resonated with me, and I'm above sure that has resonated with our audience today. Just a bit of housekeeping as we are winding down here today. The next week's event has actually already been populated inside of the Campfire RSVP channel. So if you guys are interested in coming next week to the next Campfire, please RSVP in there. We have Robert Courtney joining us, who is also is another amazing entrepreneur with lots of advice to share. Also today, Tess will be joining our cafe right after the event. So feel free to hop in there and ask Tess any more questions that you have for her. And she's also part of the community. So even if you're not able to hop into the cafe, feel free to ping her and talk to her inside the community as well. Tess, I want to thank you so much. And I guess we'll move over to the cafe now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, everyone. I really appreciate that.
If you'd like to join the Accelerate Collective and attend future campfires, visit accelerateamerica.com/join and check out our future guest at accelerateamerica.com